reached out and asked if you had read the indictment. You said you read it word for word, page for page, right?
I did. I keep up. I love Jackson.
Even though they've not been in court and they've not been found guilty, it's just an indictment.
They don't see it. My first statement was, think about your family. Think about your family. Put your family first.
I never thought in a million years we would have been put in the situation that we were in. Never. Because we went through our whole career doing the right thing.
It's utterly ridiculous to me. Utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Othor Cain Show. I'm Othor Cain. Glad to have you aboard on a chilly Tuesday evening. We've got a jam-packed hour coming up in just a little bit. We'll have an opportunity to speak with attorney Ali Shamsuddin about a judge's ruling earlier today. We'll get his thoughts on why he's not able to appear on the mayor's ballot coming up in April. First, though, I want to begin the broadcast, as always, by thanking you and really letting you know that we cannot do this without you. When you think about being able to tell our own stories and you think about independent journalism, I am absolutely appreciative of all of your support. And I just want to shout out a few people tonight for helping to make this show possible. We are absolutely excited and we are extremely appreciative. So tonight, I want to say a big thank you to Dawn Trexler, Fresh Prince, Mr. Will Smith, Shirley Hampton, Kenneth Jones, Barbara Ware, Aisha Fox, Sheila Lyons, Wanda Haynes, and Elisa Mosley. Just to name a few. We'll be doing graphics like this throughout the show. We are absolutely grateful for your support. We could not do this without you at all. And the Cash App screen is scrolling across the screen. Please feel free to chime in and to donate and to support. That's $ Othor Cain. We are grateful for your support. Turning our attention down to our top story tonight. Permanent attorney Ali Shamsuddin, who's also a former municipal judge, decided that he would run for mayor. And the Democratic Executive Committee, or the Municipal Democratic Executive Committee, opted not to put him on the ballot. He challenged that, and today a judge ruled, in fact, that he will not appear on the April 1st ballot. He's here to talk about that and some other things. I said to him earlier today, when we were setting this up, I said, I think that the people need to understand, the process, right? And to get your feel. This election that's happening April the 1st is extremely important to Jackson. It's a very, very crowded field, right? A very crowded field. And I think as voters, we've got to do our due diligence sorting through the candidates. I'm honored to be joined tonight by attorney Ali Shamsuddin. Ali, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Arthur. We go a long way back, man. It's good.
A long ways back, man. We absolutely do. We've been doing this thing for a long time, man. And it is great to see you. Great to have you here. I think this is your first time. I don't think we've interacted like this on this platform in a very long time, or at all on this platform. But it's good to have you here, man. It's good to have you here. And here's where I want to start with you, right? I first want to start, why did you decide that you wanted to enter into this mayoral race? Let's start there.
Good gracious, man. Okay. And you were actually a part of this too way back then, Arthur. When we had the citywide coalition to try to get Jackson's first African-American mayor.
Yes.
That's where we first met each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, that was 30 years ago now, So I've supported the candidates that came forth and run for mayor because I no, as you said, this position is very important. And we have a lot of trust. We put a lot of trust in the person that we put in that mayor's office, hoping that they will remember why we put them there and all the sacrifice that it took to get them there. I was part of the process that actually got the form of government in Jackson changed. You remember we used to have a mayor and 3 commissioners, and
Right.
all of them were elected citywide. And at that time, the African American community was a small minority in the community in Jackson. I think the census put us somewhere around 33%, 35% of the population in Jackson at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so with myself, Mr. Tisdale, Henry Kirksey, and some others, we filed a petition with the United States Justice Department to get the form of government in Jackson changed, simply because, as it was, given Mississippi's history and Jackson being a part of Mississippi, we said we would never, African American community could never hope to get any representation in those offices. And so they, subsequently asked us, what form of government did we think would work and all like that. And we came up with the mayoral city council type of, with the ward system. So I was part of that process, just to show that I've always been committed to Jackson, Subsequently, after law school, I worked with the father, Lumumba Chokwe. We were very close, very close. He helped me through law school, I have to say, as a matter of fact. And I interned with him during the time I was in law school. And then came out of law school and worked with him. That's how close I was to the father and the family, as that from that perspective. And of course, I voted for him and supported him. And even the mayors after him, it was Frank Milton that put me on the bench. So obviously, I voted for him. And I'm saying all this because that was part of what the election commission put out there. And I'll get more in depth with them as we go along. But part of what they put out there was that I never voted in Jackson, as if I'd never been a resident of Jackson. Now, this address that they used, the 4353 South Sywell Road, which is now in Byron. When I purchased that property, it was Jackson. My driver's license still says Jackson. I give that address, but it says Jackson, Mississippi. My utility bills come out, they say Jackson. So I didn't move away from Jackson. Jackson moved away from me, and Henry Kirksey fought vigorously to try to keep Byron from incorporating this area, but he lost. So that's how that happened. And subsequently, getting into a relationship with my fiance, I began to live in Jackson again. Jackson proper, that's what I'm saying, in South Jackson.
Gotcha.
And none of this, the election commission wanted to take into account. Now that's been my problem with them. That even though I was showing them the same thing I showed in court, how Jackson moved away from me, how subsequently I'm in a relationship now, and I even showed them a deed where I have been given ownership to the property in South Jackson. And testimony was given today from my fiance that we lived there together. So all of that was given, that's information that was given. Now, what's my issue? You and I know that people vote differently from where they live. That's common. And that even came out in the trial, in the hearing. People may have a homestead one place and they vote in another. Because they have particularly you take college students, for instance, they come here from different parts of the country and they still vote where they came from. People at Alcorn or Valley State may be from Jackson or other parts of the state, but they don't vote down there in Alcorn. So I wonder why all of this scrutiny of me. There's at least
Got it. Before you get too deep, because I know where you're going there. Before you get there, though, let's go back just a little bit. So
Okay.
you did establish that you had a long history of voting in Jackson, right?
Right.
You're not a stranger to Jackson, and I think you are, practically a native son of Jackson, and everybody knows who you are. Here's my question, though, because I think that we all remember when the annexation piece was happening out in South Jackson, right, close to Byram and all of that. So I think that we all remember the struggles and the fight when this was happening. Do we do this?
Right.
Does Byram become a separate town of its own? So we remember that. So I guess my question, though, to you, Ali, is that when this annexation stuff was happening, and you clearly say you didn't leave Jackson, Jackson left you, right?
That's
so
right.
when that stuff was happening and where you live on Sawell Road, it became Byram and not Jackson, right?
That's correct.
You were aware that happened.
Yes.
Although your utilities and all that stuff still said or showed Jackson, you were aware, though, that where you are really became a part of Byram.
That's correct. Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. And as such, with that address in Byram, were you using the house that you're in with your fiance as your permanent domicile at the time that you were voting? After the annexation, when you moved to and began to share a space with your fiance, was that your local primary place of residence and you were voting there?
Okay. So now this is how this thing came about. It really amazed and irked me. When I gave my letter of intent to run for mayor, as we all have to do.
Right.
I gave the address on Elms Court Circle. That's in Jackson. I gave that address. That's what they had. So in order for the commission to decide that I may have another address, they had to go looking for it. There was no one that protested. They had no protest. No one had filed a petition or protest that, hey, he may not live in Jackson. No one did that. The commission did it on its own.
Wow.
Now, what I'm saying is, why just me? You understand? We got.
Why did they target you? Nobody provided a challenge. Why did they target you?
Exactly. And vigorously went and getting voting records. They said, well, we saw that you voted in the Byram municipal election. That was in 2017, 8 years ago. Okay. So now you telling me a person can't move in 8 years?
Right.
And the evidence that I gave or we gave was, we're talking about the last 5 years that I have been living in South Jackson. The address that I have here in Byram, 16 years. About the house and property in Byram. And I bought it particularly because it's farm, agricultural property. I have horses. I can't keep horses in the city. Okay, that's one reason I chose the place in the first place, because it had enough space for me to have my horses. So now when Byram incorporated the area, I lived here. I never disputed that. Things change. And this is what I'm saying, they didn't take into consideration at all with me. That is, okay, now you're in a relationship with someone and you have a different address with that person. Why not take that into consideration? They did not. So, you want to use that I voted in Byram municipal elections in 2017, and here is now 2025.
Right, because the law says you have to be in the district, in the area, the last 2 years. Is that correct?
2 years.
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
So then
so 23, 22 to now, you've been voting in Jackson?
So now, I thought I was. Now let me tell you what that was. I voted at a precinct that's at the end of Sywell Road at 18. That's clearly in Jackson. That is right there near Brook Hall. Clearly in Jackson.
That church.
That church.
Okay.
Clearly in Jackson. Okay. So now I'm thinking, hey, I ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm here in Jackson. I wasn't worried about some municipal elections at the time. And so when I moved, that was, let's say 4 years ago, that met that 2-year standard. So when I initially said there was a law that was put before the legislature that said they was changing that requirement to 1 year. I later come to find out that amendment died. Okay, it died. Okay, so I said, okay, it died. 1 year, it died. We talking about me being in Jackson 4 years. So I'm 2 years beyond the 2-year statute, right? We gave testimony to that. My fiance was in court this morning answering questions before their lawyer, my lawyer, and the judge. Where do you live? Do you own that property? Does Shamsuddin live there with you? Those questions. Under oath. Myself on the stand. Mr. Shamsuddin, this property you gave 3 on Elms Court Circle, do you say that? Yes. Why? My fiance is there. Why? Okay.
Right.
Do you get all into my personal life? So what I'm saying is, Othor, they delved into my personal life unlike they did anyone else. At the meeting on the 6th of February, they summarily qualified everybody else, except one person, Keisha Sanders.
Two, you and Keisha, right?
Yes.
Right. Let me ask you this though, because you're saying that nobody contested the address that you turned in to the Municipal Executive Committee as you were preparing to be qualified. Nobody contested that. Nobody said anything. They just took it upon themselves to do an investigation.
They did. Nobody, they showed no documentation anywhere, and no one showed up at the hearing that they had contesting my residency. So this was all on their part. I know for a fact, you may even know, I don't just put it out there, but I know for a fact there are people who don't live in Jackson who are running for office. I'm not that person to be giving names.
Right.
But I know of a candidate who's running in Ward 6 who lives, I know he lives in Ward 3. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying, I'm not raising that issue with them. I'm saying, Commission, if you're going to be that stringent on scrutinizing anybody, why just me?
Right, do it straight across the board. Do you think, Ali, you are a target for some reason?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I believe I was a target. I'm targeted or was targeted because they saw me as the most viable candidate against a person of their choice. And for that reason. Now, again, let me put out here, we mentioned Keisha Sanders, and I'm just saying facts of things that happen. Here's a person who pled guilty to a felony. What was that felony? Stealing public money. That's the fact itself. What was the felony? Stealing public money. And you tell me that person, anybody in their right mind would turn around and think people will elect them to will elect them to a public office such as mayor where you're dealing with money? Besides the fact, I would think that person would know because it's explained to them, I'm an attorney, I practice criminal law. When any of my clients pled guilty, if I advised them and they chose to do it, if they pled guilty to a crime, whether it's in state or federal, the judge explains to them as well as the district attorney. Do you know when you plead guilty, you got a felony on your record for life? For life. Do you know that when you plead guilty that you cannot own a gun or have a gun in your possession? Do you know that? Yes. Do you know now you've given up your right to vote in Mississippi? Do you know that? Yes. Do you know as a felon you cannot run for public office? particularly mayor or city council. Do you understand that?
But aren't there some felonies that you can?
I think there are some minor positions. But we saw the president do it. But that's a different example. You see what I'm saying? That's a different example. But certainly when it comes to city council and mayor, anybody, that's explained to them.
Right. I will say that federal laws and municipal laws are different. Federal laws and state laws are different. I will say that, in terms of requirements and those kinds of things. I will say that. I will tell you though, and Keisha is a good friend of mine. I will say though, I was shocked when I saw her name. I wondered if that was the same Keisha Sanders, and I reached out to her, and it was in fact her. And so while I did ask this question of her, I thought, well, maybe she knows that, she knows something that, a lot of us don't know in terms of her being able to run, right? And so then after the disqualification came around, when they disqualified or refused to let, you and Ms. Sanders go forward in this race, I reached back out to her, and she seems to think that the Municipal Executive Committee didn't do their due diligence with her, and that she was not in a position to do their jobs for them. She told me at that time that she had planned to appeal as well, but I've not seen anything, come of that.
Right. Well, if she was, the time is minimal. That's the reason we had my hearing today. I was informed that the Election Commission were going to put out the ballots for absentee voters today. So that's one of the reasons we rushed. The judge rushed and had this hearing today.
Right. The judge ruled that you did not meet the residency requirement, right?
Yes,
you had been voting in Byram. I think he said maybe your tag was in Byram. I think he said something else that I read. When you got the news, when the judge rendered that decision, what were your thoughts? Maybe you can't say it here.
Man, you look, that shows how far back we go, man. That right there shows how far back
absolutely, we go. Absolutely.
But really, I was a sitting judge for 15 years.
Right.
And I know in situations here where you don't have a jury to render the decision. So when you have a jury, then for by and large, the judge is bound by the decision that the jury made, unless the evidence just overwhelmingly show different. But when you don't have a jury, then the judge is the only deciding factor. And the evidence then becomes whatever the judge decides is evidence. Okay, in a jury trial, the evidence becomes whatever the jury decides is evidence. Okay, so in this case, this judge could have said, okay, I heard testimony from the fiance who was the owner of the property, who deeded the property to her fiance, Mr. Shamsuddin. I heard testimony that he lived there with her. I heard testimony from Mr. Shamsuddin that, yes, he purchased the property in Byram, in Jackson, that subsequently become Byram. But now he's living over here on a court circle, and that's sufficient. He's a voter. I am a voter in Jackson. I haven't voted in Jackson in many years because of where I was voting, thinking it was Jackson. But the judge, within his power, could have used that as enough evidence, because they did it in a case. David Archer's case was similar to that. The judge rendered in David Archer's favor. Frank Melton's case was similar to that, and the judge rendered in Frank Melton's favor. So the evidence becomes what the judge decides. This is evidence enough for me. So the judge decided, well, since you homestead in Byram, since your vehicles are registered in Byram, and you haven't voted in Jackson recently, I'm going to use that to make my decision. So that's basically what he came to.
Got it. Is there an opportunity to appeal, or are you done?
There is an opportunity to appeal. Then you appeal it to the Supreme Court. And, I'm at this point, I'm weighing my options, as they would say. But what I want the people to know, and that's why I'm a media person, as you know. I was the editor of the Jackson Advocate for 7 years.
Right.
I really relish independent media, like yourself, that take the opportunities to get the real news out there, to get the real facts out there. Because for so often on the news that we saw on TV, they said
30-second headlines and that's it, right?
Yeah. But an independent news outlet like yourself take the time to really help people understand, because that's what we need. We need real understanding, so we can vote intelligently and make intelligent political decisions. And so when they just get brief snippets, and a lot of times it's not fully the truth, it seems like, well, this person, as I said, I was kind of hesitant to even come on, because, you don't want to seem like you're whining.
Right, absolutely.
But the facts are what they are. And again, I'd say there was a lot of scrutiny placed on me when there is no evidence that anyone even raised the issue. That there was no evidence that anyone even raised the issue about my residency.
Right. And that's interesting. I didn't realize that. I wondered, though, because I hadn't read anything or heard anything. I wondered how that came up. So we got to get out of here. But I got to tell you, though, man, and I don't think that we've had this conversation before. And I don't know if this was a part of your motivation to run or not. But I got to tell you how disappointed I was when this current mayor, Lumumba, did not renew you as a municipal judge. I gotta tell you, I was extremely disappointed with that. And I know things are political. I look, trust me, I get political fallouts, right? I get all of that, and I get when we get into these spaces, it's a game, it's a chance that you take. Still doesn't make it right, though, right?
Right.
Whether you bow down to political pressure or not, it makes you seem like a coward, and that's what I thought in your case.
Yeah, there was a lot of lies thrown around at that time. They had many people called him. In fact, many people called him and asked him, "What are you doing, man? Why are you taking chances? Ain't not the man." And he would lie, and I can say, in fact, he lied, and I'm gonna show you why. He would lie and say he don't have the votes. I went personally to each one of the council members, personally, except to Virgil Lindsay and Grizel. He never would meet with me, Brian Grizel. But all the other 5 of them said, what is the mayor talking about? We have no problem with you. What is the mayor? And each time I would tell him, I've talked with the council members. I can't trust him. I can't. So he's lying to me. You see, he trusted 4 of them to get the Richards deal. So if he can't trust them, why, what is that saying? So those lies went around, and I tried not to take it personal. I really did. As you know, I was very close to the family, very close to him. He and I were in the same office before he ran for mayor. We were in the same office, and I just couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it until it just smacked me in the face. And I said, now this is a political decision for no other reason than that. But why put these lies out there that city council is disgruntled with me? If you just say, look, I don't want him on the bench anymore, I guess people would have to take that.
Or not city council as a full body, but a city council person.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Don't hide behind all of them. Just call a spade and say who was being influenced to have you removed. And based on what I heard, it was Virgil Lindsay.
I was about to say that. I didn't
do any research on that, but I heard over and over again that she was getting pressured by some of her constituents to have you removed.
And see, the facts behind that's a lie as well. Now, there are some facts, I'm not going to go all into it. But she came after me as a favor, not to her constituents, okay? And she put out there that they were upset with me because as a judge, I released someone who ultimately went into Belhaven and committed another crime or committed a crime. Okay, well, I won't say another crime because he hadn't been convicted at that point. That was false. That was false information. I think she knew it. That was false. I was not the judge that sit on that hearing. I was not the judge that saw this person or put a bond on this person. But it was something to be used to get her point across or to get her aim. So I said there was a lot of lies that just.
You're right. There were a whole bunch of different sources because I heard the constituent piece. I heard somebody doing business, with the city. And I heard that she went to the mayor and negotiated, you do this, then I'll give you my vote on this, right? I heard all of those things,
Yeah.
It's really sad to be a political casualty. It's really sad, man, to be that all, brother. I know your heart. I know your heart, and I know your heart is for Jackson. I know your long history of service. And so I hate this happened. I look forward to you letting us know what your next step is going to be.
Yeah, well, let me say this, Othor, again, but I commend you, brother, for as long as you've been in this industry. You didn't give up on it. You tried to improve on what you do. And I as a media person, I can commend that. And wanting to get the truth out, which is so very important. And my issue here is when people sit on these offices, they ought to know what their responsibilities are. And that we've had people sitting on the city council who really don't even know what their role is. Obviously, we had a mayor who don't know what his role is. And then here's this commission who really don't know what their role is. You have one person sitting on Jackson's commission who was voted off Hines County commission, but now sitting on Jackson's commission. Wow. I mean, not resign or not quit, voted off. But now on Jackson. So if you're going to scrutinize me like that, why wouldn't you scrutinize this person who was voted off on the election commission?
Right.
So this is what I'm saying. It's on the media like ours, you and me and other people who have a real interest in getting the truth out there, that people are going to really know the truth. I commend you for it.
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying to you, man. I'm glad you came on because I feel like people, they just need to know the whole story. And, because television, 30-second sound bites, it's not going to get
it, man.
Out there. Brother, I wish you all the best. It's great seeing you. Thank you for being here tonight.
I appreciate you for having me. All
right, brother. Keep the good fight going. You've been
in
it for a long time. All right, that's local attorney Ali Shamsuddin, who was wanting to become mayor of the city of Jackson. And honestly, as we transition into who I believe are the top 5, Ali absolutely would have been a part of my top 5 had he not been engulfed in this situation. He would have absolutely been a part of my top 5. So I know you've been waiting for that. Let's get the list of the candidates up so we can just kind of talk through this thing. So look at all of these names, right? Look at all of these names. Look at all of these names. Delano Funches, James Hopkins, Lakeisha Cribe, Albert Wilson, John Horn, Marcus Wallace, Courtney C. Page, Tim Henderson, Socrates Garrett, David Archie, James Butler, Chokwe Lumumba, Zach Zervis, I think that's how you pronounce it, Rodney DePriest, Lily Stewart Robinson, Kim Wade, John Emmerich, Wilford Beal, Kitty G, Ponto Downing. A lot of people. I think that's 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Look at all those people, man. Look at all of those people. And I ask myself, honestly, and this is what I struggled with, trying to narrow it down. This is what I struggled with. Do all these people really think they could be mayor of this city? Right? Man, that's Greg. That is a football team, bro. I mean, do all of these people really think they can become mayor? I just don't get it at all. I don't get it at all. What I do get is that, the democratic process. You can run, you can offer yourself as a candidate, you can do that, right? So I totally get that. What I don't get, though, there has to be a level of arrogance, right? There has to be a level of unprecedented arrogance for all of those people to think that they can become mayor. It's absolutely unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable to me. It's just unbelievable. And so, um, uh, David said half of them run. Using your football analogy, Greg, David said half of them riding the bench. That's funny and very, 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 very true, brother. That's good, David. That's very, 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 very true. But there has to be a level of unprecedented arrogance for all of those people to really think they could be mayor. That boggles my mind. It boggles my mind. And so the way I weighted it, I did not, I have not spoken to any candidate running for mayor. Ali is the only person, and he's not on the ballot, he's the only person that I spoke with, right? He's the only person that I spoke with. And I did talk to Keisha in the beginning. But as far as interviewing, trying to track, oh, Lauren, I love you, my friend. I did not, rather, I did not talk to any of them. And those folk have asked me, who am I supporting? And at this point, I say absolutely no one. At this point, absolutely no one, right? Absolutely no one. And so no real scientific method of trying to determine who the top five in my mind are. There's no real scientific method. I just kind of looked at name recognition. I kind of looked at, some of the service or work that you've done. But I want to put the whole list back up. And Barney, this is largely to your point, because I was going to do that. So thank you. Barney says, give us the bottom five first. But just look at this list and ask yourselves, how many of these people do you know? Right? How many of these people do you even know? And the better question, and it's also how I weighted the candidates, the better question is, what has any of these people done for the city of Jackson besides offering themselves for the top seat in the city? That's a really, really important and valid question. Look at this list and ask yourselves, what has any of these people done for the city of Jackson prior to announcing their intent to run for mayor? And that removes most of them. Honestly, that removes most of them. Right? What has Mr. Funches done? What has Mr. Hopkins done? What has Ms. Cry done? What has Mr. Wilson done? What has Mr. Horn done? What has Mr. Wallace done? What has Mr. Page done? What has Mr. Henderson done? What has Mr. Garrett done? What has Mr. Archie done? What has Mr. Butler done? What has Mr. Lumumba done? What has Mr. Service done? What has Mr. DePriest done? What has Ms. Robinson or Stuart Robinson done? What has Mr. Wade done? What has Mr. Emmerich done? What has, I'm assuming, a male, Mr. Bill, what has he done? What has Mr. G done? And what has Mr. Downing done? Come on, man. Come on. That knocks most of them out for me. It knocks most of them out, right? So we can remove Mr. Funches. We can remove Mr. Hopkins. We can remove Ms. Cry. We can remove Zervas. We can remove Butler. We can remove so many of them. And Padre Downing runs for everything. And Mr. G probably should stick to law enforcement if that's the same person. But what have they done? Right? Come on, man. What have they done? Nothing that I am aware of. And clearly I don't know everything. Clearly I don't know their community service and their commitment to Jackson and their influence. Clearly I don't know. What I'm saying to you is, how many of you know half of the people on this list, man? right? So with that understanding, let me give you my top 5, because I told you all the people that you can remove, right? I told you all the people that you could remove. I have my top 5, and I have one sleeper, right? J-Mar said, I know one of them served the subpar chicken wings to the city of Jackson. That's hilarious. I don't even know who that is. Oh, wait, maybe I do. All right, so here are my top 5, and I'll explain to you why. In no particular order. So, in absolutely no particular order, these are my top 5, and I'll explain to you why I think they're my top 5. But I also have a sleeper, and I don't know if we got the sleepers graphic up, but I will announce the sleeper in a minute. But these are my top 5, and you say, Othor, why? Same familiar faces. Jackson's probably going to get the same exact thing. Well, I think, though, for large part, that's how we vote. If we're honest with ourselves, we vote based on who we know, if we're honest, right? If we are honest, we vote based on who we know and what we know about them or how well we know them. So here's my top 5. And I'll start with Mr. Wallace. And again, no particular order. So it's not like I'm ranking them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. None of that. But let's start with Mr. Marcus Wallace and why he makes the top 5 for me. So Marcus is a former mayor, right? And I think that if you have municipal government experience, right? If you have municipal government experience, that's a plus. That's a plus in any setting. In this setting in particular, that is a plus. So Marcus is a former mayor of Edwards, Mississippi. Marcus is a local business person. He's been doing business in Jackson, doing business in the county for a long time. Beyond that, I can say this about Marcus. Marcus has a heart for Jackson. I know of so many things that he has supported with his own dime, from buying boys' uniforms, to doing events to give young people something to do to keep them off the street. So Marcus is absolutely one of my top 5. And so we'll go left to right. Let's go over to Mr. David Archie. David L. Archie. Let's go over there. So here's what I would tell you. David is a former Hinds County supervisor. So he knows county government. And if you recall, David has run for city council before. Maybe he took a stab at mayor before. I cannot remember. But he is a former Hinds County supervisor. So his name recognition is there. I will also tell you that David has a good following when it comes to activism, right? He is an activist, and he has worked to help people in that process. So David is an activist, and so he's known there. So David definitely ranks in my top 5. Let's go down to let's just keep it in the order, going left to right for me, left to right. So then the next person then would be Socrates Garrett. I think everybody knows the name Socrates Garrett. And full disclosure, many years ago, I worked for Socrates Garrett when he had ownership of the Mississippi Link newspaper. So everybody knows him, local business person. He's been doing business in Jackson for a number. Who says David does not work well with others? Socrates has been doing business in Jackson for a long time. So honestly, when you hear the name Socrates, it does become synonymous with a business person, synonymous with doing business in Jackson. So for that level of name ID, I certainly, that's why I included Socrates in my top 5. And so then we go down to the second row. You have Senator John Horn. And although John's Senate district is only a small portion of Jackson, right? Although, well, that's Big Boy Thomas. What's up, brother? Good to have you here, man. So although John's Senate district is only a small portion of Jackson, John has been in Jackson for a long time. And John has name ID that people clearly recognize. So for those reasons, I think that John makes my top 5. Also, I think it's unmistakably the things John has done in the community, you know, outside of his position as mayor. I think that it is undeniable John's contributions to the city and to the community. You know, John has led health fairs. He's led water giveaways. He's done a lot of things. And, you know, John is big in theater, you know, and then in full disclosure, in absolute full disclosure, I will say this as well. When I worked for the Boys and Girls Club of Central Mississippi, John was instrumental in helping me secure for the clubs a grant from a local foundation. So John is a connector. So that goes with that question. All right, and then finally, my top 5 is the current incumbent. You cannot not have the incumbent as a part of your top 5. It would be reckless, it would be foolish, and it would be dangerous. And I will say this: I have known Chokwe Antar Lumumba since he was a child, right? Knew his dad well, absolutely loved and adored his mom. Would find myself sitting at the dinner table, played basketball with Antar because he beat me, and I had to get him on the radio as a result of that. So the fact that he is the incumbent puts him in my top 5 list, you know, and I would say, you know, he's had some success, you know, some over the 2. I guess this is his third term that he's seeking, right? Because he ran for the special election, you know, right after his dad died, and he did win that. And so I think he's been in office for 2 terms. I think maybe this is his 3rd term, if I have that in chronological order. So he's had some moderate success as mayor, right? You know, and we'll talk about the negatives, you know, of all of them on another show. But that's my top 5 guys: Marcus Wallace, David Archie, Socrates Garrett, John Horn, and Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Those are my top 5. Now, I don't know if we were able to get a graphic because I did pick one sleeper. I don't know this guy. I don't know this guy from Adam or Eve, but I like his approach to his run for mayor, right? I saw a video of him explaining where he grew up, you know, and I said to somebody, oh, you know, he may be more connected to the Black community than at least one of the people in my top 5. But my sleeper candidate is the guy that's running as an independent, Rodney DePriest. He's my sleeper candidate, right? I think there's a possibility that he could make some noise, right? I think there's an absolute possibility that Rodney DePriest could make some noise in this race. I absolutely think that. I absolutely think that he could make some noise in this race. So there you have it. I know Quinn says Kim gonna snatch it. Nah, I just don't think so. And let me tell you why I don't think so. Because I'll get into the negatives, of my top 5 in another broadcast, because they all have some negatives, some more than others, and I'm going to point them out as I see them, right? Because honestly, that's why I have not said or decided on who I'm voting for or supporting. I'm not, and I get asked that question all the time. And my response is no one at this point, because I'm not overly excited about any of them. I'm less excited about some of them than I am others. But to your point, Quinn, about Kim Wade, here's why I don't think he will fare well. Because I think that the Republicans are being pushed to support someone else. Um, I think that the Republicans, so they got this strategy that I'm not happy about, right? They got this little strategy that I'm not happy about, because I don't think your money should influence, And for me, if I was running and I needed the Northeast Jackson Republicans' money, I'm trying to figure out a way of how do I get your money, but don't call your name, right? How do I, by law, handle my finance report, take your money, but keep you in the background? Because that's been the death and curse of all of the folk that those Northeast Jackson folks have put their stamp of approval on. They've lost. They've lost. So if I was that guy, I would try to figure out a way where you just shut up, give me your money, but shut up. Don't ask for anything, right? Don't ask for nothing. And I don't think that they're asking for any favors or contracts or anything like that. But to say it out loud, you gotta figure all of that out. And to me, that's just too much. To me, David Brown will never be, man. But that's too much to try to figure out, right? That's too much to try and figure out. But that's in large part why I stand on the fact. I stand on the fact that we've got to keep Northeast Jackson Republicans and their money. Keep it in Northeast Jackson, right? Don't try to buy the mayor, because here's the thing: Mississippi has open primaries. You can go support who you want. So wards 3, 4, 5, and 6, you got to rise up, right? You got to rise up and decide who's going to be the next mayor of Jackson. But anyway, lots of time, still lots of time to point out the negatives of my top 5 and my sleeper. Who knows? Maybe in the coming weeks, some of their negatives will diminish, right? And positives will go up. So we got just a couple minutes left. So I'll entertain. I didn't get a chance because I wanted to do another segment or another piece on the ineffectiveness of Representative Earle Banks, but I didn't get a chance to pull that information together. But trust me, it is coming, because here's what I believe and what I know. We've got to hold these people accountable, right? We've got to hold them accountable, and we've got to examine their records. And so I think we've got to showcase their records. Yes, Glenn, I do. I plan to have them on. I plan to kind of do something with them individually and do something with them collectively. The top 5, that is. There's no way I can go through them one by one. I know, Gus. I know. I just didn't have time to pull that information together as succinctly as I would have liked, would have wanted to. And so, you know me, I'm not going to half-ass it. If I can't get it done right, I'm not going to do it at all. But yeah, so yes, I plan to have the top 5 on individually, and perhaps do something collectively with them. And, I know people make it mad. Why didn't this person make the top 5? Why? Just my list, just my list, right? Just my list, just my thoughts. And it's my page, and I can do that, right? You can create your own. I'm just telling you where I am and how I decided. That's just me. Create your own. We've all got to do our due diligence, right? We all got to do our research, and for me, it was just easy to narrow the list down to have something to work with. I'm not sure your question about Kim Wade, Dr. Shell. You got Kim Wade, you got a question mark. I'm not really sure what that means or what you're asking about him. Marcus says February face-off this Saturday. Yeah, I saw that event, 11 to 2, Marcus says, at Dueling Hall. 11 candidates participated. You're right, Christina. They need to be boots on the ground getting the work in. Oh, will he be a guest? No, I'm only interviewing who I think who are my top 5, and he didn't make that cut. So no, I don't have an interest in having him on at all. Nice enough guy, but I don't have an interest in having him on this platform, right? 20 people, we got to narrow the list down. We got to work through that list. And it's anybody's prerogative to run. It's anybody's prerogative to run. That's the democratic process, and I respect it. But I also have, the wherewithal to bring whoever I want to bring onto this platform. All right. I appreciate you, big boy. Thank you, Wallace. I appreciate you checking in. So there you have it. That's my top 5 and my sleeper. And I'm going to have the sleeper on as well, because I'm interested in picking his brain and hearing his thoughts. And he really became my sleeper because of his approach to this election, because of his approach. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. I absolutely thank you for being with us. I thank you for sharing this hour with us. Listen, and I absolutely thank you for your support. Absolutely cannot do it without you. So you find it in your heart. The Cash App information is scrolling across. It's $ Othor Cain. Please give to us. Please support us so that we can continue bringing you this kind of uninterrupted information, stories that you need, stories that you're not going to get anywhere else. Christina, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. All right. Hey, listen, quick reminder, tomorrow night, we at the Hanging Mars Church of Christ, we're continuing our Wednesday night series of Black History, and Congressman Benny Thompson will be our guest at the Hanging Mars Church of Christ, 5225 Hanging Mars Road, 6 o'clock. Dinner's at 5. Come check it out. Dinner is free. Thank you, cuz, for putting that Cash App up. So thank you guys for your support. I absolutely appreciate it. That's all the time that we have for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again.